Do you know that you need hearing aids, but you're worried about getting the wrong ones? Maybe you have a friend who got some and hates them, or worse yet, stores them in the drawer. In this video, I'm going to describe the 3 keys to hearing aid success. But before we go on, I'm Hainan Merrill with Hainan's Hearing Aid Tips, where I talk about so much more than just hearing aids. My wife and I own and operate an Nanaimo hearing clinic, where for the last decade we've been helping people hear better. And I want to draw from that experience and bring you tips and tricks that will make you more successful on your better hearing journey. So, 3 keys to success with hearing aids. Before I get into the details, I want you to keep 2 things in mind. A, they are in order of importance. And you might be surprised at the last one, the order of the last one. And B, these are not specific details. These are big picture ideas. They're not little details like the best brand, the best style, and all that. And I'm calling those little details, and you'll see why later. I know it might seem more exciting to get into these details, but these big picture ideas that I'm going to talk about in this video are both foundational and critical for success with hearing aids. Key number 1, you. Do you really want to hear better? I mean, really, do you want to hear better? Or are you just tired of some of the frustrations with not hearing well? There's actually a difference. Are you actually ready to put in the time, the effort, the investment that it takes to hear better? No, it doesn't have to be a hard, frustrating, terrible experience, but it does take some time. It does take some effort. It does take some commitment, like any worthwhile self-improvement activity. So key number 1 starts with, do you want to hear better? So if you think you want to hear better, or maybe you know you want to hear better, the next thing to consider is, why do you want to hear better? Now you might think, why do we have to get so philosophical about this? It's actually really important to think this through. Do you want to hear better because you want to protect your mental health? Or because you want to feel more confident in your social interactions with the people that you're communicating with? Or because you just want to improve your quality of life? Or do you want to hear better because you just want to get your spouse off your back? Well, maybe that's a good motivation to start, but unless you actually want to hear better, you're not likely to be very successful. This is actually a really important question to think through, and actually a really good hearing care provider will actually help you think through this question and understand for yourself why you want to hear better. Finally, on this idea of you as a key to success with hearing aids, what are your expectations? What do you think hearing aids will do for you? Do they think you'll fix your ears magically? And you might actually understand this idea that hearing aids are just that. They're hearing aids. They don't fix your ears. They help the hearing that you have. But do you understand realistically what they will do for you specifically? You see, in fact, hearing aids aid each person differently. Each person can expect a different amount of success. And a good clinician, a good provider will actually help you understand realistically what you can expect to gain from them, how much they'll help you and how much they won't. Key number 2, your provider. You want to choose somebody who is qualified. Now, if you live in the province of British Columbia, where I am, that actually is pretty simple, because all hearing care providers, whether they be hearing instrument practitioners or audiologists, they're both registered with the College of Speech and Hearing Health Professionals and carry the same licensing qualifications. Now, the differences between these 2 professions and disciplines is a topic for another video, and there are differences, largely in the number and the amount of education that they have and background and so on. But for the purpose of testing and fitting hearing aids in the adult population, they carry a very similar qualification. The next thing you want to consider when you're choosing a hearing care provider is their experience. Now, this is an interesting one, and by experience I kind of mean How long have they been in the industry? Are they just starting, or have they been in the industry for 15 or 20 years? Do they work with one product in particular, or do they have a experience with a wide array of products? Experience is an interesting thought to consider, because that can go one of two ways. You can have a veteran, so to speak, provider who's been in the industry 15 years and has been through a lot of difficult cases and can bring that experience to bear on your particular needs. On the other hand, sometimes when you've been in the industry a long time, you can get kind of comfortable with doing things certain ways, and maybe you're not quite as creative. On the other end of the spectrum is somebody who's fresh out of school, and they don't have that experience from lots of challenging cases. But on the other hand, they're hungry, hopefully, and they really want to learn and take on interesting cases. So take experience with a grain of salt. You're going to notice in a few minutes, I'm going to get to probably the most important aspect of a hearing care provider. But before we get into that, the next one is independence. What does this mean? A lot of hearing aid clinics are actually chains that are owned by hearing aid manufacturers. Or they might be other hearing aid clinics that have big loans from manufacturers, or in some way partially owned by the manufacturer. And what does this mean? It just simply means that you're going to likely be influenced to purchase a particular product based on who owns that clinic. An independent clinic, on the other hand, doesn't have ties and connections to manufacturers in that way. There might be still some incentives and so on, but that provider has more flexibility to choose products that would be best for you. Now, I've talked about this key number 2 being your provider, and the importance of their qualifications, their experience, and ideally them being independent. But now I'm going to get to the 4th aspect of your provider, which is probably the most important. Do you like and trust your provider? You might say, why do we got to get all warm and fuzzy about this? I just need some electronics on my ears that'll make me hear better. Well, the truth is, successfully fitting hearing aids and helping somebody adapt to them is a combination of art and science. There's all the technical stuff that we do with testing, with programming, with adjusting, with physically fitting hearing aids. And there's objective parameters that we follow to do all that. But there's a real human, artistic side to it, where we have to shape, even though we take impressions of ears, we have to shape things artistically to fit your ear canal in a way that feels good and works well for you. We have to tune things. Yes, we tune them to a prescriptive target, we call it, something that technically says you're getting all the sounds you should get. But everybody's brain is unique. And so then we have to go into fine-tuning for personal preference. We have to be able to get a good, deep understanding of your motivations, your personal needs. The more we understand some of these things, the more we can either help you understand how to use hearing technology properly, or how to understand and have realistic expectations. The more we understand your motivations, your why, the more I understand the specifics about where and when you need to hear better. What does a typical day look like for you? When you say background noise, are you just talking about being at a gym? Are you talking about your church? The more you can tell me about these specific environments, the more subtle clues and insights it gives that I can use to tailor the experience and help you do the best that you can. You know, there's that saying that says the devil's in the details. Well, with hearing aids, success is in the subtle details. And it's really true. You can have the most expensive hearing aids in the world that are technically fit correctly, and a tickly little tail makes you think these things hurt, are frustrating, cause you not to wear them, and the reason that you came in to get them in the beginning, you no longer are focused on because some little irritant is bugging you, or you haven't been taught how to use them at one specific thing that you do only once a month, some event or gathering that you go to, and you haven't been taught how to switch them into a certain setting, or how to stand in that room, or what to expect. And that's really why you felt like you needed to get hearing aids to begin with, because that experience in those environments that you go to once a month was really frustrating for you. And a good relationship with your hearing care provider is one that will more likely expose those subtle details so that that provider can address them properly and help you the best that you can. So while it might seem like a whole warm and fuzzy idea to have a service provider that you like and trust, it really is critical to success with treating hearing loss. So far, we've talked about 2 keys to success with hearing aids. Number 1 being you, number 2 being your provider, and now we're going to talk about number 3, the product. And yes, this is number 3 in terms of priority. So in terms of product, there's all different types of brands. There's actually 8 different brands that are owned by about 6 different manufacturers. I could list off the brands, things like Phonak, Widex, Oticon, Bernafon, Starkey, Resound. Those probably don't mean a whole lot to you though, because they're not very familiar, like Chevy and Ford and Chrysler. Unless you've worn hearing aids for a while or you've seen some of the recent ads. And then there's different styles. There's 2 main families of styles, ones that go behind the ear and ones that go in the ear, and then there's sort of subcategories of each of those styles. And then there's the technology level. Now the technology level is the one that kind of affects the cost of hearing aids the most. By technology level, we mean how intelligent the software in the hearing aid is. How tunable is it to your needs? So how accurately can it be tuned to your needs based on how many adjustment parameters it has, how many channels and bands, and how many features it has for reducing noise and focusing on speech. Essentially, better hearing aids usually sound, by better I mean higher levels of technology, generally sound more comfortable and natural in more situations. And then there's how this product is fit, or the quality of the fit. Is it physically fit properly so it's comfortable? Is it fit for the best sound? There's so many different variables with how a product is fit that really can affect how well you hear with it. I've seen people come in with hearing aids that aren't that old, maybe cost a lot of money, and they can't hear very well at all. And I realize the way they're fit, the earpiece is not keeping all the sound in. It's the wrong earpiece for their ear canal. And this is back to, the subtle details I was talking about. Sometimes a hearing aid manufacturer software will say, okay, it's supposed to have this type of fitting on the end of the speaker to go in the ear. And I look in there and yep, that's what it has. But the way it's supposed to fit that ear and the way it actually fits that ear are completely different. And so then I have to go and do something creative or make a custom earpiece so we can actually keep the sound in there so that person gets the sound. A top of the line hearing aid that is not physically fit right does you very little good. The physical fit really affects how well the hearing aid can be tuned. And hearing aid tuning, that's a whole topic in itself. There's what it should be, and then there's what you want it to be. And that's actually sort of a sliding spectrum, because in the beginning, you may not be able to handle everything that you should get. So then you need a provider that will work with you over time to help you get used to hearing with hearing aids, and then to help you hear better and better as you can handle more and more. And there's the coaching of how to use this product, how to get the most out of it, what bells and whistles that it has are important for you, which ones are not, how to take the most advantage of the features. And as you can probably tell at this point, really getting this product to work well for you is circling back to point number 2, a good provider that you like and trust. And then it almost kind of goes back to point number 1. Do you want to hear better? And are you willing to put in the time and effort to work with this provider to help this product work well for you? So if you're still watching this video, thank you. You deserve a gold star. The hearing aid industry is a funny one because nothing happens to help people hear better without proper amplification. And I mean that in the sense of if you have a hearing loss, treatable hearing loss that can be treated with hearing aids. Nothing happens without having the product. But success with hearing aids is so much more than just hearing aids. So let me recap. Key number 1, do you want to be successful? Key number 2, do you have a hearing care provider that you like and trust? And key number 3, do you have the right product that's fit properly for you? If you can answer yes to all 3 of these questions in that order, you will be successful with hearing aids and hearing better.